Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
You're watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and if you've been following this segment, then you know who Mel is, and you know why I'm here with her. But in case you've never seen it, my friend Mel and I are doing a segment which I have been calling my nightmare, because it is an ongoing nightmare. And Mel has been the angel on earth that has been hand selected by God to rescue me. And she certainly has been doing that. She has been exerting a lot of energy and time daily to help me to cope with this spiritual battle that I've been engulfed in. It started over 20 years ago, but lately it's culminated to a major battlefield that I don't get to carry a gun and make a difference, or I don't get to put any physical arsenal on me or go to help me. The only person helping me in the human form has been Mel, and she's been working with my angels and guides, our angels and our guides, but she's making a huge difference. But I always say, it's like every bully who has been running the gamut. When they realize they no longer have the power to dominate and hurt and steal and play people the way they have for their entire lives, they go nuts. They become unhinged, and the darkest dark of them comes out. And currently, that is what Mel and I have been dealing with for the last month. Since I've started talking about these people, especially the Dutchman, he has become incensed. And as this segment continues tonight, Mel will explain some of what she's pulled off of my body. And before I bring Mel into this interview, this is what I want to say. This has been a learning experience for me. And given a choice, I wouldn't choose this lesson. But for some reason, I've been thrown into it. And I do what I always do when I'm thrown in a ring. I find my balance. I find my balance, I guess is the word, or I find my consciousness and what I'm dealing with, and I go for it. Because any fight that I'm presented with, I will fight. I am not a coward, and I believe that everything God allows into my life, He has equipped me to handle, because He loves me like He loves you, and He gatekeeps us. Some things He allows, and He allows them mostly because He knows we have what it takes. So if we remove fear and we lean on faith, we'll begin with F, then we can win the battle. And I am going to win this battle. There isn't even an if or a but. In fact, I have already won it. It's just a matter of getting the bullies to understand that. And Mel will join me in 1 second after I have read this to you. I read this somewhere and I wanted to share it with you. And it says, no one is more committed to trashing your name and you than the person who is worried about you telling the truth. And usually that truth is what they have hidden in the dark for years, and what they have been doing to affect people who love and trust them. But because they can get away with it, some of them have gotten away with it for their entire lives. And people like Mel and I have been put on the earth to save the captives. And in my case, I had to be a captive first because I kept running from this. I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to believe it, which I would guess has been your emotion when you watch these segments that Mel and I have been sharing with you. So, before I eat up the whole 40 minutes, I'm bringing in the superstar, the woman we call Mel. Mel, welcome back.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Mel, we've been through the ringer. I am feeling like a beaten up soldier. I don't know about you. I don't know where you want to start today because so much has happened that I'm going to let you take the reins when it comes to this segment because my wind has been wiped out of my sail this week. And just so you know, it's not because the bullies are winning. I just happen to have caught a bug of some kind. So I was dealing with that as well as them. And so I'll hand this over to Mel now.
Okay, well, no pressure here, by the way.
No pressure.
Right. So I think what I want to start with, as you were saying this, I'm going to start with what we've been dealing with since last segment. Okay.
Okay.
Which is something that has a little bit changed and intensified, if you so will. I know it would already began before last segment, but it really has taken a really, really tough turn since last segment. And that is, and we mentioned this, is that we are dealing with otherworldly beings called the reptilians. Okay. Now, I wanted to make a statement from last time. I'm being reminded of this. I know last time you had mentioned that reptilians don't have souls, but they do.
Right.
Yes, reptilians do have souls. They're also creatures of, creator. But just like with everything, right? It can, creatures and souls can go one way or the other, right? So there's either a positive way or a negative way, and not all reptilians go that route, by the way. So I just want people to understand this. This is not something against the entire reptilian race, so to speak, but the ones that specifically that we're talking about, okay, are not the nice kind. Let's put it that way. So I just wanted to bring this to or clarify this. Now, what we have been dealing with, and you primarily, is that Dutchman who we have identified last week as being part reptilian himself. Okay,
Half.
has connection. And therefore, he, before more recently, he has been using the reptilians in a very sparingly, right? You have smelt, them in your yard every once in a while, and even for the beginning, in the beginning of when you and I started working together, that didn't seem to be big of an issue at the time, right? But ever since we have been sort of taking down his efforts, efforts to control you by way of magic that he's doing. He has resorted to other methods. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, and these methods involve these reptilian beings. And so, what you have been dealing with, especially what we've noticed this last week, is that you have had them literally in your home every day. And maybe you can say how you know they're there, and then you tell me, and then I go in and I can confirm that. So there's
Okay.
comes with it, right?
Okay. Today I connected two dots and I shared this with Mel. I told Mel that this morning when I was having my coffee, I connected the dot that over the period of time that I lived here, and even women at work, I would come into work and go, last night, I had the most disgusting smelled like dead flesh in my bedroom. And I could tell they were a little freaked out. So I stopped sharing with them. I am very good at reading the room. If I share something and I notice people are uncomfortable with it, I back off. But this continued, and it even was starting to happen at work. But it was always followed by my body being poked or something happening to me. And so I would say to Mel, I got that smell and then this would happen. And I said to Mel, I think they bring whatever is coming to poke at my body and make me uncomfortable. But this morning when I was having my coffee, I told Mel, while I dated Dutch men, there were a few times when I got that particular smell. And he always wore a lot of really nice smelling cologne. And now I am realizing it was probably to disguise that scent that he probably had because genetically he's part of that smell. But it's taken all these years for me to connect the dots because I didn't know that he was half the R word. And now that I know it, I can go back and connect dots. And if you've watched the very first segment where I talked about him when I brought him into the picture, because we didn't expect this plot twist, I thought he had gone on with his life since Noah was building his ark. I'm shocked to find out that he's still actively been doing this to me. But I did mention in the first segment when I talked about him that I broke up with him when I woke up during the night to see a 6'3" man in my bed in the fetal position. And he looked like all his pores were raised and he had like tears coming out of his eyes and he was speaking to something. And that thing was telling him he couldn't be with me because I was light. And he was arguing with it and telling it he would bring me over. And then somewhere while we're doing these segments, Mel will tell you what we found out on my body. So somehow he kind of took me over, although I was never part of darkness. But this might be very complicated for you to understand. But because you don't understand it, doesn't mean we're not telling you the truth. So back to you, Mel.
Okay, so you just led into something, that particular thing that I believe you mean. One of the things that I found on your body initially that was very, very important to be removed. Okay, and that came from Dutchman. Okay, that was done by Dutchman. And how do I know this? Well, anything that energetically that is on your body or in your energy field carries with it a signature, okay, an energy signature. And this energy signature tells me sort of where this is coming from. And then I also, of course, have my spirit team who then confirms to me where this is coming from. So what I'm referring to specifically, and what I'm sure you were referring to, is a sort of mark, a brand, okay, that was found, that I initially found on your body. Now, you didn't just have one. I initially found one, and that was on the back of your neck, right? That was on the back of your neck, and I moved it. I removed it, and it was interesting that it didn't come to my attention before. But I believe it has been there for a while before I removed it. And as I've mentioned, I believe in the last segment is my spirit team sort of shields me from some of the things. They don't want me to become overwhelmed. So basically, my spirit team is working with me so that I can work energetically in removing and tackling the things that need to be tackled at each time. So what I mean by that is there may be other things that still outstanding, and we know there are, but I always receive every day when I go in information about, okay, today we're going to do this, or this is what you need to pay attention to. And, you know, this is something new that just came in. So let's do this, because without removing this, you're not going to be able to do this. So there's always that guidance that I'm receiving. And so that's my interpretation of why I didn't notice this brand on your body before, because there were so many other things we had to take care of. And again, we had to sort of work on, Sandra first, whatever Sandra is doing. We had to do them one by one. We had to sort of, now we're still dealing with Sandra to some extent. We are, but we are, she's definitely the lesser of the two evils at this very moment, is when if you so will. Okay. So this brand I removed. Now, you didn't just have this brand in the back of your head, or back of your neck rather, but I literally went through your body scan a couple times, right? And I found a brand that was inside, believe it or not, your uterus. And I'm telling your viewers here, I'm not making this up when I say this. It was on the left bottom of your uterus. That's where it was located. And I don't know if you want to reveal, can we? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say, and this is, there may be some viewers who are familiar with this, but, and they can maybe connect the dots, but the brand that I saw, I was given a symbol with it. I was shown a symbol. Again, when I do this kind of work, I don't just sense the energy, I also get visuals. Okay, that's very important. That's how I know what it is I'm dealing with, right? And the visual I received when I removed that particular brand, if you so will, or marking, or whatever you want to call it, was a Masonic symbol, the Freemasons. Okay. And I don't want to get into it too much. Those who know a little bit about Freemasons know that the upper echelons of the Freemasons are involved in some shady stuff. Okay. And that's where I will leave it at. Okay. So that's what I discovered. Now, that, of course, put us two together. That was the confirmation that he, okay, especially him, was somehow connected, or is somehow connected to the Freemasons. Okay, so there's that connection we made there. Now, what does that mean for you? In a sense of me working with you and doing things and removing things, it doesn't make a difference per se, but it allows me to understand, or it allowed me to understand even further, the kind of darkness we're dealing with, right? And that he potentially could have, resources at his fingertips that maybe he otherwise would not have. But that's beside the point. It was just very interesting to see, or to have been presented with this information while I was scanning your body. Now, there were other things on your body, and I don't know how much you want me to, reveal. Okay, okay, that cloak. Okay, there was one thing that I want to talk about, and this was probably one of the biggest things, and I mentioned it last time. I believe I did, right? When I said that when I removed it was so difficult that I was jittery and literally cried afterwards. Okay, for a while. Yeah. Now, I know that you're going to be talking about much more stuff in the book, but I can already give your audience a taste of this. What I removed from your body was anchored on your left hip. For some reason, it appears that they love to anchor things into energetically anchor. Now, mind you, okay. So again, when I scan your body, I look and I see things. Okay, I'm being drawn to certain parts of your body, and then when I hone in and I check it, I receive information. I receive information I receive visuals, and I receive verbal information, and I sense things, and this is kind of how I work, right? So there was something anchored on your left hand hip, and I was told that when removing this, it was going to be difficult. I knew it. I was told, I was warned about this in advance. So I made sure I wasn't doing this in between my own client sessions. Okay, I made sure that I had time off to do this thing, and I did. And when I removed it, let's just put it this way, Um, it was a shroud. It was a dark shroud. It's almost as if there was a cloth. Like you can imagine a cloth that was anchored into your hip, and that just covered your body. Okay. And it was wrapped around your body, and it was dark. It was almost black. It was a shroud. And this particular shroud was close to your body. It's as if you were wrapped in it, okay, like a mummy almost, okay. Although your head was free. I didn't see it around your head, but I'm sure that it was somehow also affecting your head. But in any event, it was, connected to your body, and it was that wasn't the difficulty in removing it from your body. What was the difficulty was removing it from where it was anchored, because it was so deep anchored into that area. And again, this is the strange part. Maybe your audience can sort of put two and two together on this, to find the Masonic symbol in your uterus and to have this particular shrouded thing anchored in the same area, okay, general area, on the hip, on the left-hand side, which is the feminine side, by the way, from the body. There's a energetic feminine and masculine side that each of us have. That sort of made me believe that this shroud was created with this, Masonic sort of energy, with this Masonic help, I think. I think that whoever put it there, okay, I'm being told it was Dutchman, okay, just so you know. So he's the one who put it there. Is that he, I believe, had help in doing that he couldn't do it on his own. And I know that you mentioned one day that he went somewhere,
Go ahead
right?
and say it. Yes, you could go ahead.
Yeah. So you mentioned that he took something personal of yours when in California and went to Los Angeles, right? And was there. And actually, you said that he went there quite frequently, right? Even though he really didn't, yeah, anybody there that he was visiting per se.
Yeah. Every time we broke up, he would go, because we met in the San Francisco Bay Area. For those people watching who are not from California. And it's a 6-hour drive between San Francisco and Los Angeles. Whenever I broke up with him, he apparently would steal personal items of mine, and he would be gone to Los Angeles for 2 to 3 days. And I always wondered where he was going or why he was going. And I've later connected those visits to the I Church, the main headquarters for the church that begins with I, that is not of light and love, is the main headquarters I have discovered, is in Los Angeles. So he was clearly going there, and my guess is someone there or someone's there helped him to do this to me. Now, one more thing I'm going to say so that you can understand what Mel is sharing. After we broke up and I found out he was doing these things to me, one lady told me she saw him with a bright, bright pink piece of my lingerie, a piece of my hair, and a piece of my jewelry. And the pink lingerie was part of a set that I bought at Victoria's Secrets. And I'm sure they had given me the complete sets. I bought 3 different sets, and I went home and put them in my lingerie drawer. I put both sets, but suddenly the panties of a part of it went missing. So when the woman told me what she saw him with, I knew she was telling me the truth. Okay, Mel, back to you.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll pick up. So yes, you mentioned, he went to Los Angeles a few times, and I believe that he used with the help of others, created this and potentially other things. Okay, I don't know. We're not aware of or are sure of what else, because a lot of what he does himself. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I a guide of mine that's been working with me said that we're definitely dealing with someone who's mastered the art of spell casting. That was the words that I received. Okay, that was the information, and I agree with that. He's definitely a master at his at that. There's no doubt. But yes, so I think also this sort of explains, hopefully, to your audience to some extent why this whole ordeal isn't over yet. Because not only are we dealing with, Sandra, who's, I believe, also connected to the same thing, okay, in her own way, but him, who is definitely connected. And those are two people who are so powerfully have a status within that organization on some level. I truly believe that. Okay. And their resources reach far, right? You even said that before, and I don't know if you want to mention that, but he had a regular job, but he was having, he had lots of luxury items that you had no idea where they came from, right? Where do these things come from, right?
Yes, because he was not the CEO. He was just a regular employee. But he drove a Porsche, he had a huge boat, and he lived lavishly. And to be honest with you, people at work used to ask me, where does your boyfriend get his money? Because he drove a better car than most of the executives in the company at the time. And it's not the kind of thing you ask someone. So I never really asked him. I just assumed he made a lot of money earlier in his life, or he was born into a family of wealth. But you and I have discovered that that's far from the truth. In fact, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about what you observed or about his personal stuff. I don't know. But he was not raised in wealth.
Well, I'm sure he was raised. Actually, I do believe he was raised in wealth because of the connections on his maternal line. There's a lot of wealth going on. I'm sure there was. But he was not, what you were referring to is he was not raised in a loving home. Okay, let's put it that way. As a matter of fact, I believe he was abused in every which way you can imagine. Okay. And that is, from a human perspective, one feels really sad for someone like that. But it also explains why there's no emotion coming from him in that sense. Okay, even though he may be part reptilian, and he is. Okay, that's just the way it is. But the human side of him has truly been and we just had his confirmation, has been suppressed. It has been extinguished, if you so will. I don't think he has much humanity left in him unless he needs to. So it's just it's very, very difficult to grasp what it is that happens, because we as normal people, we can't understand how someone could actually be so evil, if you so will. And I don't use this word evil lightly, okay? But when you look at all the things that you have been dealing with, right? And I don't just go with what you're telling me, because I want your audience to know this. I use my own assessment, okay? I make my own assessment. I go in and I check, and what I see and what I remove, and all of the things that I'm dealing with. And I know that you're not making this stuff up, because I see it, I sense it, I feel it, okay? So seeing all that, it's really hard to fathom how someone can be that way or do this kind of stuff. But yet there is, and he's not the only one. There are others out there that are just so their humanity has been so removed by certain people. And I don't want to get into the details of the eye, what you're saying. We're not even going to mention that name here. People can put sort of two and two together, but it has to do with the Freemasons, okay? And it has to do with, a certain group of people, elites around the world, if you so will. That's all I'm going to say. That's not unusual. That's not uncommon. Okay, it's well known amongst the community who is aware of this stuff. All right. Now back to the shroud, if you so will. I was able to remove it with and it really cost, I mean, it literally hours. It took me hours to recover from doing that. But that, after removing that, you felt, ever since then, you felt a difference, a major difference. And I want your audience to understand that there are so many things that were initially placed energetically in and around your body. Number one, okay. But also, that's not it. By me removing everything, they were aware of it. So these two people, these two individuals, kept doing it and kept like renewing and refreshing or trying to do that, what it is that I had removed. So this is how we kind of began, right? We started off by removing, and then we're like, wait a minute, how come it's coming back? And this is sort of how we discovered all of this stuff. We didn't just come into this, I didn't come into this knowing, oh wow, I am dealing with all this. I had no idea the extent of what I was dealing with until I started to look into it further. So this is not something, you're not dealing with your everyday spell caster, a witch that you go to get a love spell or something like that. We're talking with a major master at his craft, okay, and someone who keeps doing it. Now, I can go into further details as to what we found on your to maybe just a little bit to let your audience know.
But before you continue, 1 second. I want my viewers to know one thing. Sandra Tong and Dutchman are working together. Yesterday, I was attacked by Sandra Tong again. And Mel and I were shocked. We're like, wait, we thought we put her down. But somehow in their dark world, they are like backing up each other. Like Mel is backing me up. If he gets knocked down, she comes up. And this is kind of what we're dealing with. But before Mel continues, I wanted to say this about the shroud. One of the people that I had gone to for help, and now I understand why none of these people could have helped me. And to be honest with you, if it weren't for Mel, they would have taken me down, because Mel has been working consistently, going on 3 months, sometimes 5, 6 times a day. Yesterday, she had to clean so much off of me, which she'll share later. Corkscrew out of my neck, rats out of my head. I was suffering. Every single part of my body was attacked, and I was down with the flu. So I really felt like I was dying yesterday. And the reason I interjected is to tell you the shroud that Mel removed that took so much energy from her. Someone I saw previously told me that I had been shrouded, and I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, okay, so shroud me, so what? So Mel, before you continue, I am hoping that you can tell people why someone would be shrouded. What would be the purpose of shrouding someone? Because I'm still unsure as to why I was shrouded. And I know that this is a question people will ask me.
Well, the shrouding is something that, the way I would see it, there was an entity attached. Someone shrouded you in darkness by sort of promising that your vessel, and well, not your soul, because that's different, okay, but you were a subject of darkness, that you were their property. And yeah, that's kind of the way I see it, because there was a very, very, very strong and powerful dark entity that was attached to the shroud. Now, it wasn't the shroud itself, but whoever put the shroud on you, I'm sure, was working or conjuring up this dark entity in order to do that, in order to be able to do that. Because you have to remember, when you work with dark things or with dark energies, you sort of have to give something, right? That you can't conjure something, you can't do something unless you give something in return. So they had to give something in return, and they're not going to give something of themselves. They're going to give something that they believe they can, in exchange for whatever they got. I'm pretty sure maybe they received some sort of compensation on some level for promising whatever it is they promised for you. I don't know, but the shroud literally marked you. It was that you are a property of the dark. That's the best way. And then my spirit
And,
team is like, yeah. So if you so will, I mean, that's the best way to describe it. Yeah.
and later on, Mel and I will share why we believe the key. We'll get to that maybe next week because we're almost out of time. But Mel and I will share why I was shrouded, why he spent so much, why he exerted so much energy on trying to take me down, him and Sandra Tong, and how it's all connected to the souls that have gone up, the souls that we have set free. And just so you know, a set of them went up last night again. They're still going up. And Mel has seen Archangel Michael in my backyard with someone putting up a sign saying, welcome. This all sounds so out there, but it is happening in real time, people. But one thing I wanted to share before I let Mel continue, I had a horrible day yesterday. I really wanted to die. I was running a fever, my body ached, and Dutchman and Chinese woman realized I was down and they had a ball game. They had a party with my condition. And Mel, poor thing, was seeing her clients and trying to help me. And as soon as she finished her last client, she did what she does every day. Hi, Jennylyn, how's it going? And she sends me 2 lines and she gets 100 from me. And this poor woman, she's gonna stop asking me how I'm doing because the response is always like forever. Like, does she even have time to read all that's going on? Sometimes I'll just pick up the phone and call and say, I hope you don't mind if you have 5 minutes. We just had a voice. Anyway, yep, we're having some interference. But anyway, Mel wrote something to me that in the midst of my misery, I could not stop laughing. She goes, oh my God, you would not believe what I just found. I feel like I'm getting a crash course in witchcraft. And I could not stop laughing. She goes, I feel like I'm taking a crash course in witchcraft because of the different avenues that this poor woman has been going down to save me. In fact, I told her, I wake up in the morning and I feel like she and I are in a lion's den, like the two of us up against these giants that we have no semblance of how to fight this battle because we don't, we are not from that world. But thank God for the angels and our guides. They have really been guiding us. And I'm sharing this so my viewers can get a clear picture of how we work together. My guides give me the information along with her guides to direct her. Check this, check this, check this. Or they will bring back portions of my past where I have interacted with both of these individuals to help us to connect dots, the things that have happened in the past that could help to guide us to how we resolve some of the issues on hand. And we just had some interference, just so you know, and now I'm feeling stabbed in my back. Can't make this up. But we are not going to quit. We're going to finish the show, and I'm sure at the end, Mel will help me. So Mel, I hope I didn't lose your track that you were on, but I'm gonna let you continue from here.
No, that's okay. Actually, I want to talk briefly about something that you just mentioned, and I want your audience to understand. I get that a lot from clients who say, well, I don't understand. How come, the divine can't intervene, right? How
Oh,
come they
yeah.
can't just come in and
Clear it all up.
have it go away, right? Wouldn't that be nice, right?
I
Wouldn't
have asked you that. I'm like, why aren't they just taking this? Why aren't they letting this stop? Enough.
Right. Well, that was that easy. Just think about it. There would be no evil in the world, right? If they could just intervene. And one of the things that I have come to understand, especially working in your case, is this, is that there are cosmic rules, okay? Number one, and there are also unspoken rules, is what they call them. That's the best way to describe it. to sort of between the light and the dark. All right. Now, the light and the dark has been coexisting on Earth for a very long time. All right. This is not something new. So they have sort of come to an agreement, if you so will. And I'm just going to speak as if I, give you a presentation here, because I'm not an expert on these rules, other than the fact that, for instance, the light cannot intervene unless it is life-threatening or there's certain circumstances in place, directly. They need to have a vessel, a human vessel, to do the work for them, okay? Which right. I am the human vessel for the light, and there are many other people out there who do that, healers and so forth, right? But the same thing goes for the dark side, which is why the dark side needs to, they can't just come in and do things. They have to be conjured by someone. It always begins with a human vessel, okay? It always begins with someone who started this process, someone who feeds the process with a human or a physical vessel that does it. So now, that said, if since they both have worked on the dark side and have done all of this for you, there are rules or things that now are in place that like people the divine, like Archangel Michael and others, can't overstep, okay? But what I found is that there are loopholes, okay? So, and this is what we're gonna get into next time too, is with regard to there are loopholes that they can use on both sides to circumvent, and be a little bit more part of the process. And that's hopefully making it more understandable for those of you also who are religious, okay? You always think of, why isn't God helping me, right? Why am I getting, it's because of these unspoken rules and these cosmic laws that are in place and that have been in place for a very, very long time. And because humankind has chosen to experience darkness in its form, in certain ways, and that's a whole nother, a topic for another time. But just so you understand that this doesn't work like this, that would be nice if I could go like this. All right. So you know what it looks like, so that your audience has an understanding of when I work. Now, there are certain gifts that I have on my own that I do and I go in. And now my gifts are enhanced. Okay. For instance, I receive information or little tidbits of breadcrumbs or dots that we're connecting, right? Or and here's another thing. Or they're sending in, for instance, help that doesn't maybe fall under the restriction as they do. Like I had yesterday, I had help from someone who came in, who has come in for me a few years ago. Someone very actually prominent and famous in the field of magic. And just, that's all I will say. I will not oh, you want me to say it? Okay. Well, for those, I guess I'm allowed to say it. But the voodoo priestess, Marie Laveau, who is from New Orleans, and many people know her, right, because she's very famous. She actually showed up for not twice now for you, right? And yes, and yeah,
covered in chills, as you're saying.
Yes. So she came in for me a few years ago in 2019 when I was working on something, and she showed up and she spoke to me and said, "This is what you need to do in order to get rid of this." And I took her advice, although I ended up not needing it. I didn't need it. She gave me a recipe for some concoction, which I didn't end up using. But she popped in again for you. And I didn't, at first I didn't know why all of a sudden this woman was there with a turban. She had a turban on. I'm like, who is this woman? And she's talking to me, and she's telling me things. Okay. She's like, listen, what you're dealing with is this is what you should do. So you see, that is a loophole. so if you so will, that the divine has. The divine can't do it, but she's not divine in that sense. Okay, she's a person, she's a human soul that is now assisting from beyond. Also, your friend Rita has been helpful, to an extent of coming in. All right, so the divine has its ways to do that, right? And as I'm looking at the clock, it's 5:55, by the way. So
Don't lie there.
so I just want to tell you, Anna, this is a special number too. A synchronicity is always important. But yes, and yesterday, was it yesterday when she came in, or when I asked her for assistance, you actually had relief, right? It's
Yes, for the first time all day. Because yesterday we believed Dutchman thought we were going to do this segment because the week before we did it on Friday. And yesterday I did not feel well. In fact, I had gone to work the day before and they sent me home because I picked up a bug. And so I was laying down and I was beat up. Sandra Tong and Dutchman were doing different things to my body at the same time. And before Mel and I wrap this up, this is what I want to share with you guys. I have zero reason to sit here and make stuff up. Plus, if I had such a great imagination, I would be a #1 author and I'd be milking it. People, everything Mel and I are sharing with you, we are telling you the truth as we experience it. We have no agenda. We don't care if you watch us or not. We were told to share this, and those who are meant to benefit from it will. I will not let pride or ego stop me from doing what God is instructing me to do. And I believe one of the reasons that there aren't more stories like this on YouTube is because they're afraid of what people will think of them. Well, guess what? I don't care what you think of me. You don't live in my skin and you don't suffer for me. So go ahead and be my guest and draw your conclusions. But I will not stop sharing the truth. And one of the things I wanted to say is you may have difficulty understanding if someone is not physically behind my neck with a corkscrew, how could I feel it? Well, I could because I did. I did. I had pain in the back of my neck. It felt like someone was taking a pitchfork to the back of my neck, drilling a hole in my head. And this is on top of the physical symptoms I was experiencing from the flu. And I text Mel and I go, Mel, I know you're busy, but I'm feeling like I am dying. And sure enough, she checked and then she can tell you what she found that she's allowed to share. All the details will be in the book that we don't share here. And then we'll wrap it up. So Mel, if you share what you can about what we dealt with yesterday.
Well, what we dealt with yesterday was the rage of a person. And I say this two people, but when, as I mentioned before, is the one that was causing you the most pain was Dutchman, okay? Because he has this rage within him, and what he was doing was a little different. He started a little different tactic, and you see, again, I have to say to your audience is that when I tap in or I tune in, I receive information and I see things. And what I saw was that certain areas of your body were still being affected. However, it was being done differently. It was done differently than it was before, which tells me that whoever did this, and I knew it was Dutchman, so that he used a different method to a different spell, if you so will, or whatever it is that he's doing. Okay. And so I, of course, am at this point thinking, okay, he must be using a new method because the old method no longer works, right? Because we have found something to work against the old method. So he tries to find a new method. You see, this is what's going on. He's doing something, we're shutting it down. He's doing something, we're shutting it down. And, eventually, hopefully, he's going to run out of different things, right? And I also want to say, well, I'm going to get to that in a little bit before we end this recording today. But here, what I found was that he literally engaged yesterday in merely wanting to make you feel miserable, in just to inflict pain. Whereas before there was almost a different agenda. Part of it yesterday was just, I want to hurt her as much as I can, because everything, every part that I got to, the back of the neck, the knee, okay, the side, the back, it was all him using tools to create pain and suffering. Okay, it wasn't anything. Whereas before he tried to, and I didn't mention this earlier, but he during the other times he tried to insert things, to try to rebrand you, to try to do different things. That didn't happen yesterday, at least not to the extent that I could tell. Okay, most of what I found during that process had to do with him actually trying to hurt you physically and making you miserable. Okay, so and he found a different way of doing it. So and that's why this Marie, okay, came and she showed me something. She told me something, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. Again, I need to remind your audience, I'm not a witch. I don't do witchcraft. Okay. So therefore, everything that I do and handle is with my skills in energy work, with my skills in detection, and I get information and my skill in channeling. I have, changed things through channeling certain words or certain things from the divine to counteract things. That's what I do. Okay. I'm not versed or skilled in witchcraft or any of that stuff. So her input was like, okay, let's try this. And I did. And that's when you saw the difference. So I found that very, very helpful. And it wasn't anything witchy at all. It was simply a method that I was thinking about. I should have thought of myself, actually. And I'm not going to mention it on here, obviously, for obvious reasons, at least not now. So, but yes, it was just something that I'm going to keep in my repertoire, if you so will. Okay. Moving forward for you and others.
People, when she's done with me, she can fix anything in the spiritual world. I can tell you this because she's going down roads she's never gone before. And she tells me she's never had a case like mine. So maybe I was sent here to be a guinea pig for her to become the best of the best, because I feel that she's needed in the world. Before I hand this over to Mel to leave her final thoughts with you for this week, I want to say one thing. In case you're watching me wondering, you have this Sandra Tong and this Dutch man incessantly and consistently trying to tear you down. Who the hell are you? Well, let me tell you for myself, I'm not a big deal. I'm just an average girl. But I have a huge purpose in this life, in this incarnation of my soul's evolution. And they know, and they want to stop me. So it's not as simple as a jealous woman who is obsessed with who I am and wants to be me, and whatever other agenda she has, or a man who was rejected. It's way bigger than that. And we discovered something this week that Mel and I have not been given permission to share here, but it has to do with the souls and why they're coming to me. And when we have been given clearance, hopefully next week, if we are allowed to tell you, we will. And then you will start connecting the dots. And so thank you for following this series. I really encourage more and more of you to watch it with an open mind, because you may know someone like me who's suffering and you just can't figure out why things can't ever go right with this person. And they may be struggling, which not as bad as mine, because I would hope no other human is going through this. but some semblance of what I'm dealing with, which means if they find the right person to help them, their lives can improve. I would encourage them to call Mel because she's the person I have experience with, and I happen to know she's a person of integrity. Like I say every week, she does not take money from me. And even if she worked for me full time, I could not afford to pay her. So she's doing this out of love and she's following the leadership of the divine. And Mel, thank you so much for holding my head above water and getting me thus far. And over to you for your final words before we wrap.
Okay. Well, I just want to tell your audience one last time that this case has really challenged me in ways that I can't even imagine. Okay. Um, and I do believe that we were brought together for a purpose. Okay. There's a certain reason, not just that I can assist you in getting rid of or minimizing and doing all that what we're doing now, but that also other things come from it, and we have discovered that, and we're not going to be talking about this today. So I also want to tell your audience that even though this sounds scary, by sort of understanding that darkness exists, all right, doesn't mean that you actually give it access to you. All right. That's many people will deliberately stay away from, knowing that it's there, will deliberately stay away from maybe listening to someone like you because they're afraid that they have somehow get affected by it, that it comes to them. I just want you to understand that if you are someone that is, light on the inside, okay, that is, if you so well, God-fearing person or someone who believes in light, then you don't have anything to worry about, at least not with what it is that you're doing, okay? Because what it is that what we're dealing with here is not interested in anyone else, right? It's only interested in you, and it's interested in me because it wants to stop me. And actually, on that note, let me briefly also bring up, I know that somebody asked you whether or not I'm safe, right? You received that question.
A lot of people ask me that. They're worried about you getting hurt by this.
Well, I do have protection, unlike anyone. Okay. I mean, I'm sure others do too, but for me, I'm highly protected. Not only do I do it for myself, but I have a protection, divine protection around me. And even though, sometimes when I do go into your energy field, I feel things, but that isn't going to stick with me. Okay. So in other words, it doesn't come home with me. I don't get, even though I'm working with you and I'm the reason for why some of the things don't work anymore. I can, I don't have problems at nighttime. I don't get attacked during the day. I don't get any of that because it's very clear. And to be honest, I wouldn't be doing this kind of work, right? If I was to be subjected to be attacked in that sense and wouldn't have any recourse of protection, I mean, I wouldn't be engaging in this kind of thing. So this just comes with the territory. All right. So I want to tell those audience or viewers of yours who are concerned, no, I am not affected. Every once in a while, I do feel some things, but that is because of my energetic connection. Okay. I have, when I tap into energetic fields, that of the Dutchman, that of the Chinese woman, that of you, I get affected by the energies that I tap into. And they sometimes are, experiencing anxiety. They're experiencing chest tightness. They're experiencing aching in the lower back. But then it's kind of because I'm tapping into your energy and I get sort of, I feel what it is that you're feeling, you see, but I don't get attacked in that sense. My life isn't uprooted like yours is. So I just want to be perfectly clear about that. Okay. That's a quick rundown.
And on that note, let me clarify also that they're not interested in anyone around me. I've had people visit me and spend weeks here. and don't understand what I'm talking about. So they're after me because you'll find out why. And we'll leave you waiting for the answer to that next week. And thank you for following us. I know we went over time today, but who cares about time when we have this great story and this experience to share with you? And we will be back next week with what's happened between then and now, and what we're leaving you waiting to hear. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.